Hi. How is everybody tonight? Oh my gosh. Guys, I'm so excited to be back with everyone. I hope you all are having a great night. Um, Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, share. Um, I just want to make sure that everybody who wants to hear this, needs to hear this, gets to hear this, guys. Um, Tonight I'm going to be quite vulnerable with everybody. And excuse me, I'm sorry, I gotta adjust. I'm gonna be talking a lot about self harm and self hatred tonight. So I want to make sure that I give everybody a chance to get in, comment and share. Let me know where you're from. Let me know if you've ever struggled with this so that I know I'm not alone. I would greatly appreciate that. So I'm just going to give everybody a couple more seconds to get in. All right, make sure you guys say hi. Make sure you guys share the love. Share it, share. Because it may not help you, but it may actually end up helping somebody else, okay? All right, so I'm going to get started. Guys, this subject tonight, it hits me. It hits me hard. Because, like I said, this is something that I struggle with. Tonight, I'm going to be talking once again about self-harm. And so I just want to warn anybody who struggles with this, there's definitely going to be some triggers because I know that what I talk about is very intense when it comes to this, and I struggled with it for years. So I don't want anybody to feel trapped or feel any negative vibes when it comes to this or get any ideas or anything like that. So I do want to put out a warning first and foremost. I'm going to take the time to do that. I want to make sure that this is a healthy, safe environment when you watch my videos. And I want to make sure that everybody is definitely living a healthy life, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I personally have struggled with cutting for, going on 10 years, maybe? Yeah, give or take. I dealt with it for about 10 years. I struggled really, really, really badly with my self-esteem, like I mentioned in other videos, and it was something that helped me escape. And when I talk about cutting and when I talk about my issues and my addiction to it, that's how I feel. I feel like it was a huge addiction for me. It's something I still kind of get, like, I don't know how to explain it. I still sometimes have that feeling and that urge to want to do it. However, I've definitely found healthier resources and outlets with dealing with it. And I'll get to that in 1 second. But I want to let you guys know that it's not something that I glorified or was happy about by any means. But for me, it definitely was kind of a sick and twisted romantic affair type thing. And I'm going to read an excerpt from my book that I just started writing called Addiction's Kiss. And I wrote this book from the perspective of my addiction personally with cutting towards me as the addict. And so when I read this excerpt, I want you to think of it in that mindset, okay? I want you to realize that I'm talking from the perspective of, like, almost like a guy to a girl or girl to a girl, guy to a guy. No judgment. But I want you to realize that to me, this was a huge love affair. It was a sick, twisted, toxic relationship, okay? So I'm just going to read the intro to you guys, and then I'll delve more into what I personally struggled with and how I went about that, okay? So again, the book is called Addiction's Kiss. I'm going to be trying to release it probably by the end of the year, maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed that I get to writing. But just know that it's coming, okay? So, welcome back. Did you miss us? We were so good together. You were naive enough to believe that you were in charge. Your lack of submission ticked me off. Every day you thought you would get through it without me, but you can't leave me. We are in a strong, committed relationship and it's only getting stronger. You don't get to tell me when we're done. I am the master and you are the servant. You do not dictate what goes on in the inner workings of this relationship. I have the things you want and desire. I'm close to you and you're happier when I am. The blood-stained consequences of our intimate affairs are the only thing that make you feel alive. So that's just the opening intro. And I want you guys to realize that when I wrote that, I'm going to be completely honest, I was ready to relapse. I started writing this book about 3 months ago, and I had been sober for 7 months at that time. It was a terrifying experience to want to fall back into those ways, because I know that I'm stronger than that. And when I tell you that it's one of those sick and twisted games that play in my mind, nothing was going wrong. Nothing was happening in my life that was like bad. Actually, everything was kind of good. You know, I just moved to a new state, to a new home, moved in with my best friend, her family. You know, it's just everything's been going great. It's just the sick and twisted addict mentality. Something that you have to fight day in and day out. And I realized that instead of cutting and giving into those temptations, why would I do that? Why can't I just express it in a healthy outlet? I've always loved writing. I've always been good at writing. And so I took it upon myself to, hey, why not try starting to write a book? I was going to start off writing a poem, but my poems are okay. Like, I mean, I write poetry all the time. It doesn't really help me. It just kind of lets me get it out. But it's never done anything in the past, so why would it do anything now? So I started writing the book. And while writing it, it's opened up these weird feelings and emotions that I didn't even know existed. I didn't realize that I still struggled with certain things, but realizing that through writing the book as opposed to through cutting helped me so much. There was a time in my life back when I was 17, 18, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just cut because I don't want to kill myself, but I don't want to do drugs either. So, and I'm too young to drink, technically, you know. I know some of y'all were probably bad, but I didn't drink until I was 21. But I say all that to say I didn't have any other outlets, or so I thought. So I started cutting, very minuscule comparatively to what I ended up doing, but I was so depressed and so alone and so lost, and I didn't know how else to deal with everything. To me, it was a control thing. For me, it was, I can hide this, it could be my secret, I can just keep it to myself and be good and be happy. So I ended up cutting for about a year. I went to college right after high school. I was at a small Christian college, and it was a very dark time. I only went for a semester, but I had moved 4 times in those 4 months. And I didn't know how to handle that. I was all the way in Washington State. I'm from Chicago. I was halfway across the country. I didn't know how to deal with any of it. So it was a stress reliever for me to just cut. When I moved back home, obviously I came home with my tail tucked between my legs, because it wasn't that I failed out of college. It was the fact that didn't have a place to live. I was literally homeless. And so moving back home was a big issue for me. And when I moved back home, I felt like such a failure, like such a disappointment to everybody, including myself, because obviously I had ambitions of going to college and, you know, living that whole life, but that was not what I was supposed to do. So what ended up happening was, fast forward a couple years, I end up going to a great internship in Texas, and a lot of people were kind of shocked because I had found out about this internship in November, moved to Texas in January of the next year. So it was definitely a big jump for me to, like, just leave again. But I knew I needed to do something and get a change in something. Well, when I first got there, because it was a new environment and I didn't know anybody and I was stressed out again, I relapsed again. And this time, though, it was more of like, okay, you can't do that here, you know? So I was held accountable and my actions were held accountable. And yes, I could have gotten away with cutting and just not telling anybody, but it felt nice that somebody finally knew. Excuse me. And so what ended up happening was, during that time, I didn't cut. And it was not easy. It was not easy by any means because people were driving me crazy and it was a new environment and I didn't like certain rules, and but it helped me grow up and live healthily. Do you know what I mean? So with that, it was one of those situations where, okay, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this to myself anymore. I'm better than that. I'm bigger than that. So I was good. I was in such a good place. Fast forward 2 years, I had been clean and sober, and then the internship was over. So I had to come back to Chicago and go back to working at Taco Bell, where I'd been working. I had worked there since I was 14 years old until I was 18, moved, came back. But going back at 24 now, oh, okay. And then having customers be like, girl, you're still here, you're still here, you're still here. No, I left, I've done this, I've gone to Norway, I've lived in Texas, I've lived in Washington. They didn't care about any of that. Oh, you're still living here? Oh, okay. No, I've lived all these other places. But nobody cared. That was a big deal for me. That was a huge ordeal for me because now I'm 24 and I'm feeling even more like a failure. I had put so much pressure on myself to be this, this, and this by this, and this time. I didn't graduate from college like all my other friends did. A lot of my friends were getting married and having kids by the time I was 24, 25. I'm still single. I'm still working at Taco Bell. You see where I'm going with this? I had no other choice. I mean, I did, but I felt like I had no other choice. So I relapsed again. This time, though, it was a lot scarier. I can do this. I really struggled, guys. I found myself in such a dark place, and I discovered cutting in a very dark way. When I was cutting originally, it was just really little nicks around my ankles. And then I realized pencil sharpeners or razor blades did such a more powerful thing for me. And it became me chasing a high instead of me cutting as form of, okay, I just need to release this issue that I'm having. It became more of a high for me. And I began chasing that high. I would cut deeper. I would cut longer. I would cut more often. Sometimes I'd be like having the greatest day ever and I would just have to cut because that was the addiction point. And I did that straight for 6 years straight. But when I turned 26, that was 2016 was like the worst year, I think, for everybody. But for me, it was fairly decent for the most part until the end. I had gotten into my dream college at Columbia College in Chicago. I was working my butt off so I could pay for Columbia College because it's expensive. And it was I was getting straight A's. I had a 3.9 GPA, even though I was working 40 hours a week and commuting to school. And I was just kind of living this dream life that I had wanted. And then I was at work one night and I'm looking at my boss like, hey, I want to work at this location because it's closer to my school so that way I won't have to have that, big commute between class and school, work and school. And that way I can work more hours so I can make more money. Yeah, you guessed it, to pay for school. My boss looks at me and tells me, yeah, no, you're not really valuable enough to the company for you to transfer. Wow. Okay. I was shocked. I didn't know what to really say to being told that I wasn't valuable enough to a company. I had been the top person. I had always treated customers with respect. I had customers who literally came to that location just to see me. I have never had a customer complaint, never had any issues. I had the utmost respect for management. And to be told that I wasn't valuable enough to a company, I lost it. Literally lost it. Went kind of crazy that night. Not gonna lie to you guys. Got entirely way too intoxicated and tried to kill myself. I tried to jump off of a bridge. That was the first time in my life that I actually almost went through with committing suicide. I've struggled with thoughts of it. I've struggled with depression. I struggled with all that, but I had never acted on it. So when it went from cutting as a form of release to standing on top of a bridge over the expressway, it was the most terrifying experience of my life. And I didn't realize how much that would shape who I am today. I ended up obviously not doing it because a car had driven by, and I thought it was a police officer. So I jumped back, ended up ripping open a wound in my hand that was so deep it was ridiculous. Because I had jumped down, but I forgot to let go of the fence, and I just started walking because I thought it was a cop, and I didn't want to go to the crazy house, because that's what they do. But it was a wake-up call for me. I'm not valuable enough to come. Do you know who you are, Memory? Yes, you are a child of God. You are a princess. You are meant to do so much more. And it was such a gratifying experience for me because it could have gone so negative and it could have gone so dark and it could have just escalated so quickly to the fact where I wouldn't be sitting here before you guys today. And when I realized that my life was valuable, okay, little company, put in my 2 weeks notice and left. And I just have lived my life. Every day has been a greater day. Even my hardest days, y'all, have still been better than my worst. And I thought, oh, it's going to be so great now. I figured myself out. The next year was even worse. Something happened to me that I'm not necessarily ready to share in March. But when I tell you that year was almost worse, I don't mean that lightly. And I'm sure one day I will eventually get the energy and the strength to share it, but I'm just still not in a place to share it. But when that thing happened to me, I lost all sense of self. I lost all identity. My whole entire identity was just tarnished. And I went on a downward spiral. And I gave up. I questioned everything. I questioned everyone. Why didn't I just die that day? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? And when they say you grow through what you go through, that is so real and so true. And you have to take it upon yourself to keep hold of something during your trying times. For me, that was what I was holding on to the whole entire time because I didn't know why I was going through what I was going through. I didn't know why that had to happen to me. And the next 2 years were this weird mixture of amazing times, but in all the wrong ways. I definitely lost so much time and so much energy and so many people because I didn't know who I was anymore. And the journey that I've been on in the last year has been insane of self-discovery and rediscovering not necessarily who I was back then, but who I was meant to be still to this point, regardless of everything that happened to me. And last year, I ended up relapsing after being clean for 2 years. And it was one of the worst relapses I've ever had. And it almost ended me up in the hospital because I ended up cutting so deeply that I thought I was going to die. I couldn't stop bleeding. I wouldn't, I thought I hit the artery on my thigh. It was bad. It was really bad. I was quite intoxicated. I was really upset, and I lost it. And I don't tell you that because I want you to feel bad for me. I don't tell you this because I want you to feel sorry for me in any way, shape, or form. I know that I'm stronger and bigger and more in control than this cutting addiction is. I know that I'm going to win. I know that I am healthy and I'm happy, and I know that I know my triggers. I know what's going to push me over the edge. I know what to do. I have de-stressors and I have outlets now, and you have to set yourself up for success. If anybody is struggling with this, or self-hatred, or anything, and it doesn't necessarily have to be cutting in order for you to be self-harming. That's just my struggle personally. There's a lot of resources out there, and I don't mean necessarily like calling the suicide hotline, unless that's what you need. There's a lot of resources though to help you de-stress. If you like drawing, if you like writing, if you like exercising, if you like music, find those things and use that as an outlet. When I write my poetry, some of my poetry is dark, y'all. Dark. That's how I was feeling. My poetry isn't like, oh, this is pink, I love pink, it's pink. No, not at all. It's more like, the bloodstained consequences of my intimate affairs. It's dark, but it's raw. It's what it needs to be. And I think that a lot of times we get into this place and this mindset, especially in the African American community, we get into a mindset that there's a stigma upon us regarding mental health. It's okay not to be okay. What it's not okay is to feel ashamed. It's not okay that you have to feel ashamed or have to hide your mental illness. If you're struggling with this, please reach out. If you need resources, reach out to me. I have plenty of resources, and I will be there to talk you through things if you need that. And I just want everybody to know that it's okay to ask for help. It is. We all can't do this on our own. I know that for a lot of people who are like me, we struggle with asking for help. No, I'm good. I don't need help. Thanks. I'm fine. Everything's fine. It's okay. I figured it out on my own. You don't have to figure it out on your own. You don't have to cry alone at night. You don't have to take a shower just to let it all out and cry. You don't. I want you to know that there is help, there are resources, there are people who are wanting to be there for you. So, with that being said, once again, I'm going to wrap up here, but please like, share, send this video to different people, share on your timeline because you just never know who may see this video and want help but are embarrassed and don't want anybody else to know. So they see the video and they're like, okay, good, I can just reach out to her privately. Reach out to me. I have a website, Elevated Souls, and I just want everybody to go like that page so that you can see I'm going to be posting more resources on that page, as well as giving other people opportunities of, just to have an outlet, a place where they can actually just open up and share. Okay? So thank you all so much for tuning in. I love you all, and remember to elevate your soul.